The show does not normally cover holiday-specific stories unless they include the words egg and nog in that order. But right now, with Congress waiting for the Don't Ask, Don't Tell report to come out and the election's over and done with, there's some downtime in the news business, which is why it is perhaps not surprising that this is the biggest story in the country.
The new measures from the Transportation Security Administration have set off a wave of criticism and frustration among passengers.
You've heard the backlash. Passengers are calling some of these security measures humiliating, intrusive. Others have likened it to sexual assault. These are some really harsh words. Do you understand the outrage here?
Some passengers, it's not just that they're saying it's stupid, they're saying some that it amounts to sexual assault, and some are also saying that it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution's ban on unreasonable search and seizure.
The new screening protocol at airports is the biggest story out there right now, in no small part because of images like this one. That's awkward, right? But here's the thing. Yes, there has been wall-to-wall coverage of this story. It's been all over CNN and Fox and the network shows and MSNBC, and it just seems to hit all the right outrage buttons. All the right outrage buttons like, the story has a great tagline.
If you touch my junk, I'm going to have you arrested.
If you touch my junk, I'm going to have you arrested. That quote has been reduced to its very essence, to its very core, with just 4 simple words: don't touch my junk. Great catchphrase. A moment of supposed civil disobedience posted on YouTube for all to admire, with a line that is the most Twitter hashtag-friendly thing since "Don't Tase Me, Bro." So that was the first public outrage button the story pushed. The second, a young boy, 6 years old, reportedly forced by Transportation Security Administration officials at the airport in Salt Lake City to take off his shirt as a routine part of the new pat-down protocol. Third, anti-Muslim outrage. According to certain right-wing blogs and media outlets, the TSA is making an exception to the screening and pat-down rules for women wearing the hijab, a get-out-of-jail-free card for women wearing headscarves.
They want an exemption, a waiver for Muslim women, and Janet Napolitano's considering this.
When a story hits all the right outrage buttons, when you have the convenient everyman hero with the great made-for-TV comment and the kids caught in the crossfire and the rumors about special treatment for Muslims, you have to stop and wonder about the efficacy of the tale being spun. So first of all, the "Don't Touch My Junk" guy didn't record that video on a whim. He's a libertarian activist who's blogged about the TSA pat-downs and referred to them as groping. As far as the incident involving the 6-year-old boy goes, we now know from the TSA the child set off the metal detector at the Salt Lake City airport late last week, and it was his father who removed his shirt to speed up the security process. Finally, what about the Muslim women who are getting all that very special hands-off treatment?
They want an exemption, a waiver for Muslim women, and Janet Napolitano's considering this.
The TSA has responded to the charge on its blog saying, quote, "No one is exempt. Everyone is subject to the same screening. TSA is sensitive to religious and cultural needs, but everyone must be screened effectively." So when a story hits all the right outrage buttons, it is not a bad idea to pause and take a deep breath. A few things here. One, I'm not in a great position to independently judge whether these new security protocols appreciably reduce risk or not, but it seems incumbent on the TSA to affirmatively make that case rather than just say, "Trust us." Two, I'm more or less on team "Don't Touch My Junk." The TSA procedures feel onerous and invasive and are a potent reminder of the massive expansion of the security state after 9/11. So then why did I find myself agreeing with a friend of mine who tweeted this weekend that he was now part of the, quote, TSA backlash? Part of it, I think, is that the genuine backlash is being generated, is being marshaled by some pretty unsavory characters pushing some pretty awful ideas. And part of it is that a disconcerting amount of the animus seems directed at TSA employees themselves, the implementers of the policy, rather than the geniuses behind it. Joining me now is Adam Serwer, staff writer at the American Prospect. And Adam, thanks for joining me. You wrote a really good piece about exactly this, and I want to dive right in and say, what are the kind of ways in which this outrage is being marshaled on the right towards some pretty onerous ideas?
Well, I just want to say that I'm also more or less pretty much on team "Don't Touch My Junk," but I will say that this is sort of dovetailed into a malicious conservative narrative against government workers. I mean, basically, they have been after government workers. They say they get paid too much. They say they get too many benefits for a long time now. And now they're saying, well, look, who's the symbol of a public worker that you want? Is it the fireman? Is it a cop? Or is it the guy who puts his hand in your pants? And, that's what they're saying now.
And how does the TSA, I mean, walk me through a little bit of the timeline of the actual policy, because there's a certain kind of like Obama menace aspect to this story on the right as well, that this is the footprint of big government as, you know, characterized by Barack Obama. Where did this policy come from?
Well, according to the Government Accountability Office, the body scanners were in operational testing back in financial year 2007. What happened was that after the Christmas bombing, the Obama administration accelerated deployment of the scanners because they were worried about the threat of non-metallic objects and explosives like the one carried by the underwear bomber.
So what do you think is driving ultimately? I mean, how do you disaggregate the kind of, I think, useful frustration people feel about the sort of growth of the security state from some of the scapegoating that's gone on? Like, where do you hope to see this move politically?
Well, I think there's basically three groups of people. There are people who, there's sort of the civil libertarian left that's really genuinely concerned about this. There's they're the people who aren't bothered by it at all. There's the sort of small government right that's also genuinely concerned about this. And then there are people who just wouldn't really care unless there was a Democrat in office. And I think how you can tell the difference is based on the good faith of the arguments, whether they're being dishonest and saying, oh, this is Obama trying to put his hand in your pants, or whether they're saying we should adopt a racial profiling policy, which wouldn't work because racial profiling is about as statistically accurate as random screening. And I think you just really have to look at what people are proposing as an alternative, and you can pretty much tell who has their heart in the right place and who's just trying to turn this into a political scandal for their own benefit.
Very quickly, people are taking bets about when the TSA is going to walk back this policy. I mean, the winds do seem to be moving that direction. What's your feeling about what we're going to see in the next month or so?
I think that if the Republicans and Democrats get together with the administration and figure out a less invasive way to do this, I think that would be best for everyone, and I hope it works out that way.
Adam Serwer is staff writer at The American Prospect. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Great. Thank you very much. Take care.
That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Until then, you can read more of my work at thenation.com or follow me on Twitter, username Chris L. Hayes.